Welcome to the Command Share, brought to you by Star City Games. I'm your host, Sheldon Menery, founding member of the Commander Rules Committee. In each episode, I'm joined by one of my RC colleagues, and we break the show into two blocks. First, in the Command block, we talk about the RC's high-level decisions, thought processes, and the things that we're discussing at the moment. And then in the Chair block, we lean back and talk about playing the game. The cards, the decks, the text, the kind of thing that the RC brings to the kinds of games that we like to play. This episode's co-host is the one and only Scott Larabee. Scott, if you'll have a seat in the Command Chair, and note that since Toby was there last, it is 100% otter-free.
Yeah, I noticed that. Toby seems to have a thing about otters. And trees.
And trees. Now, it's been a minute or two since you and I have had the opportunity to do an episode together, so what's new in Scott world?
Oh, not much. You know, just coping with quarantine and getting through the election, which will be over by the time this this airs. I've also been doing some card design work for an upcoming Magic product, though, so that's a little exciting.
An upcoming Magic product? Who knows what that might be? All right, let's dive in. So, as of this recording, we've just wrapped the first week of Commander Legends previews. Mm-hmm. And there have been already a couple of cards that have created a little bit of controversy.
A little bit.
Those two would be Opposition Agent and Jewel Lotus. So what we're going to talk about, what Scott and I are going to talk about, is not so much the specifics of the two cards, but the way the RC approaches previews that get a visceral reaction from the community. So, first take on process.
Well, the first thing is that we don't do emergency bans.
Except for the otter, but
except for the otter, which was more of a, that wasn't a power level problem, that was a game rule problem. So we had to fix that just because we knew it wouldn't work, and there's no point in letting it sit out there for a week and a half until we get to the rules.
Right.
And then tell people it's not going to get played, which is all people would talk about. So,
right.
But you know, we have only banned cards. That's the only emergency ban we've ever done on release.
Right.
We've banned 2 cards in the next cycle. So a card will come out in a set, and then when the next set comes out, we've banned cards. But we've only done it twice. And we did that with Gristlebrand, and we did that with Worldfire.
Yeah, it was also in a time when our banning cycle wasn't necessarily matched up with the pre-release cycle.
Correct.
Right, Gristlebrand was in the wild for about 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was a little bit longer.
But, but I mean, we see the cards now beforehand, and if nothing jumps out, like the Lutri thing, if nothing jumps out, it's better to let the card go into the wild and have some time.
Sure.
I mean, we were pretty sure we were banning Gristlebrand, right?
We were very positive that we were going to ban Gristlebrand, but we didn't emergency ban it, which we could have done. We said, you know, let's get it out there, let's see what happens. It was very clear, very quickly, that it was going to be a problem. So it was a pretty easy call to make. And then with Worldfire, I think we had the same thing. We're like, you know what, this is just so much like other cards that we have banned, but let's give it 3 months, and we banned that. Other card, I mean, people bring up the cards every time. I mean, the ones that I can think of now are Draconic Magistrate, Bolas's Citadel, Shaman of Forgotten Ways, Nyx Bloom Ancient. These are cards that people always say, ooh, you know, I'll bet they're going to ban this card right away. And we're like, we consistently said we're not. We're going to let it we're going to let it, not fester is the wrong word, but we're going to let it go out in the community. We're going to let people play with it, and we're going to see if it's a problem. And I think with all of these, we have seen, you know, these cards are strong. Certainly, Bolas's Citadel, of those 4, I think is probably the one, in my mind at least, that kind of sits atop the, this card's really strong, and then maybe Draconic Magistrate. Like, Shaman of Forgotten Ways, people assume that, well, you banned Biorhythm, so why wouldn't you ban this card? And it's like, yeah, Biorhythm doesn't die to murder. And, you know, it's a nothing. I don't recall anybody ever even playing a game against me with Draconic Magistrate in it. I've certainly played against the other 3.
Yeah.
And even Nyx Bloom Ancient, is a card that I've seen make some pretty cool things happen.
Yeah, Nyx Bloom Ancient is a commander card, right? Yeah. It costs 7, and it makes dumb stuff happen.
Yes.
That's the format in a nutshell. Shaman of the Forgotten Ways was definitely a big nothing burger. Like a huge one.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that's why I think we can recognize potential danger, but until there's real danger, you don't take action.
Correct.
You know, every person that walks past you on the street could potentially mug you, right? But you don't arrest them for that potential, unless you're like in some dystopian future Tom Cruise movie.
Right.
Right? You wait until something happens in order to do it. Obviously, you protect yourself, but I think that we really need to wait to see if cards are going to have the impact that the doomsayers say they're going to have. Not, oh my god, the potential exists, so we're going to get rid of it right away.
Sure, and I think with Draconic Magistrate too, I think there was a little bit of. I think the reason a lot of people said something about it is because the folks that are in charge of Brawl banned it immediately.
Right.
And Brawl being, a little cousin of Commander, I think everybody thought that we would. But, Brawl was mostly for Arena and a one-on-one format. And, yeah, that card is very oppressive in that format.
I can imagine. Yeah, you don't have...
But, I mean,
you're not getting orc piled, right?
I've been on the receiving end of a Draconic Magistrate from you, my friend, at least twice during the boxing league.
Yeah.
And it's tough. I mean, you want to get my commander out, and I can't. But you know what? Like I said, Draconic Magistrate dies to murder, so eventually it's gone, and then we can bring our things out, and I don't think there's anything terribly oppressive about it.
Well, I think that it created a very interesting, again, in a multiplayer situation like we were in the boxing league, it created a very compelling dynamic because, sure, it shut down some commanders, but there were people that may have been able to kill it and said, you know what? This game can exist without Scott's commander right now.
Yes.
So I'm going to let Draconic Magistrate hang out until it's inconvenient for me.
Correct. I mean, I was there. I remember in one game at least, I was extremely annoyed that it was there, but it was also keeping silly mutate commanders from coming into play, so I wasn't entirely upset.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, the problem in that game, of course, was I still got to play my silly mutate commander.
Yes.
Yeah, so I really the whole idea here is that taking action too quickly is a path to madness because if you react too fast, a lot of times you have to walk back that reaction when it becomes a whole lot of nothing. And, we've talked about previously and we've demonstrated over the last decade and a half that it's better to wait and make sure that something is bad than jump on it right away. Leovold even lasted a second cycle before it got banned. And then it was actually playing the card that accelerated the whole process. It was like, oh my god, I can't believe how oppressive this is, and I don't want to do that to my friends.
Exactly.
So I think that being conservative on banning cards, taking our time to think about the implications, it makes the most sense. So, I mean, one of those implications is, there are people that have the idea that we should preemptively ban cards so that people don't go out and acquire them at a premium price only to have them drop in value.
I mean, that was certainly... I was certainly in the top 2 reasons why we did Lutri when we did.
Right.
We didn't want people to go out and buy them and then fight. We already knew that it wasn't going to be working the format because we'd seen the card ahead of time. So we decided to get it out there as quickly as possible because we didn't want people going out and buying them and then realize afterwards that, oh wait, in the rules interaction, it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
So I think that was the right thing to do. Generally, though, with that kind of thinking, I mean, I empathize, but like we rarely ban cards so close to release, and frankly, we rarely ban cards.
Right.
So we're very conservative about banning cards, and so I can understand how somebody could, be upset by going out and spending a lot of time and effort to acquire a card and then feel disappointed when they're banned. But like I said, we in the last few years have banned so few cards that I think that it is better to verify that we need to ban a card, rather than be skittish and try and ban it up front.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much sympathy for speculators, but I think we have to tell people, be careful. Like there are no guarantees here. The primary thing is the secondary market is not going to drive our decisions. We can't let it, because again, that becomes a snowball into madness. And if you're going to pay premium price for things on pre-release, be careful, right? Because as you and I sit here today, we're not going to make a guarantee that any card, cards that we've seen already, or the cards that we're seeing in the week where this show will air,
correct,
aren't going to get banned in the near future. We just if
or
something, go ahead.
The far future,
or the far future. If something is unhealthy for the format, that's our thing. Yeah, that's really our thing.
I think Iona we banned 8 years 10 years after it came out. Yeah.
Well, because something has to demonstrate that it is bad for the format now, right?
Correct.
If it starts out at a high rate and everybody's like, "Oh my God, Squire is wrecking the format," then Squire's got to get got. But if it's a slow build, like I think Iona was, and it was the curving up of the popularity in the format that made Iona the problem. Like the raw number of the raw percentage of players that were available to play it became problematic. That's when you do something about a card. And and again, you wait for evidence, and it might be in January that nothing is wrong. There have been no tectonic shifts, and then April comes along and like, okay, we've been gathering evidence for these 6 months now, and again, that card, whatever that card is, and we're not focusing on individual cards. Every card, regardless of the community outcry or not, every card gets evaluated on its own merits.
Completely agree.
Okay, so there's a card we should hit on before we move along, and that's War Room.
Right.
So first question is your assessment of it in the format.
I mean, I think it's good. I mean, I certainly think that any deck that doesn't have to worry about its life total too much is going to want to run this. I can think of at least 2 decks that I'd probably want to put this in. It's very similar to Castle Vantress, but I mean, it's fine. I don't have a huge problem with it. I can imagine that people are asking about its eternal format issues.
So the question isn't about it in Commander. It's about playing it in Legacy and other eternal formats. Right. And they've asked if you can activate the second ability, and the answer confirmed by Rules Manager Matt Tabak, friend of the show, friend of the stream, is that you can.
Yes.
Or, well, you can activate it. There's nothing in the activation that said, actually, there is. Actually, pay life equal to
the number of colors in your commander.
Yep.
You can't, you can't
activate it. So, there it is. Matt said, and, Toby brought it up as soon as he saw it. He's like, I'm interested in the legacy discussions of War Room.
It's a short discussion.
Yeah. It was like 5 minutes later. Well, Tabak said.
It doesn't work. Right.
Because that's how we do. Well, keeping the format healthy is our top priority. So one of the ways that we do that is by not acting too quickly on things that seem like they might be bad. When a card's impact on the format becomes problematic, Then we take action, just not beforehand. With that said, let's stretch our legs a little bit. You know, the folks that come on this show have been playing the format for a long time. We run cards that some newer players might never come across. So we discuss each of those cards in a segment we call Hidden Gems. Why don't you give us, Scott, some of your original Black Border goodness?
Well, this isn't original Black Border goodness. This is a card that came out in the last 10 years, and the reason that made me think of it is we invited some guests on the show a week ago. We had Jim from Spike Feeders, and we had Cryogen on. And Cryogen dropped this card, and it made me think, ooh, yeah, I've had this kind of card. I've not put it in a deck yet. It's kind of sitting off to the side. I've kind of wanted to put it in a deck. It's called War Cadence. I really like this card. I like the idea of this card. I like the idea of taxing on blocking, not just taxing on attacking.
Yeah.
And it's in red, which seems all too appropriate. So yeah, this is one I looked it up on. EDH Rec. It's in less than, I think, 900 decks out of the total, whatever, mid 200,000 decks that are on there. So it's well below 1% of all decks. And I thought, the other night when Cryo played it, I'm like, yeah, this thing works. In fact, it might work better than taxing on attacking.
Right.
I think this one is just because by the time when somebody's attacking you, they're often doing it when they have all their mana up, so they can choose to do it. But when they're blocking, they've usually spent their mana on their turn,
right?
So they often don't have the mana in order to block. So
I just double checked, and I'm right. It is an original Black Border because its first printing was in Mercadian Masks.
Oh, it's a reprint. I'm a goof. No, that's great. I mean, even better that it comes from a set like Mercadian Masks, which does not tend to have a lot of gems in it.
Yeah, and think about the earlier days of the format.
Mm-hmm.
I think we played a lot of Mercadian Masks cards.
We did.
Not just because, there were obviously, 15 years fewer sets available, but just that there were cards there that seemed really good. Certainly, Rebels had a place in Commander or EDH back then, and Mercenaries had a place. Even the Merfolk that nobody uses anymore.
Right.
Sea Hunter.
Don't remember.
There's a Merfolk that searches up other Merfolk, and that's out of a Mass block. That's from Prophecy, I think.
Right.
But yeah, cards from this block, I think, still have quite a few playability angles, and this is a really, really good find because, blocking is for losers anyway.
That's right. Yeah, the Mass block is weird. Like, the obvious cards from the Mass block all got reprinted, like in 7th, 8th, 9th edition. Mm-hmm. Was Ivory Mask, things like that got reprinted. But there's, the first Pirates were in this set. We'll get to Pirates in a bit. But, the original Pirates were all in the Mass block. I
think there was a pirate in... I think there was a pirate in Homelands.
Well, there was one in Legends. It wasn't called a pirate at the time.
Right.
But it is now. It's been retconned. But, there weren't a lot of pirates back then. And, Mercadian Masks was the first set that kind of went, quote, wide on them. I think it gave you 5 of them or something like that.
Yeah.
But, there's some interesting stuff there. And I've seen on your series here, the Hidden Gems, I've seen Mass block cards come up occasionally. They're often really weird kind of, counter spells that do something weird, or removal spells that do something in an odd way. They're a little situational, but they can be pretty cool.
I'm going to go back even farther than you. I'm going to go into Plane Shift with Confound. It's an instant for 1 and a blue. Mm-hmm. And it says, counter target spell that targets 1 or more creatures. Good already, right?
That's pretty good.
Wait for it. Draw a card.
Draw a card. I'd say the only thing you got wrong about this card is that it, in fact, came out after Mercadian Mass block.
Was that after Masks?
Yeah, because this is Invasion block, which is after Masks.
Oh, my memory of those days is so fuzzy.
So I still win.
So you still win. Yeah, I mean, I think you need interaction in Commander, whether that's, I mean, this is definitely not a hard counterspell.
No.
And 99, 40, 400% of the time, this is going to protect the thing that you need, that, you know, the thing that's very, very important to you. Mm-hmm. I mean, I might be drawing cards with my Shadow Mage Infiltrator, but I'm not, you know, if you murder it, I'm not gonna confound that.
No.
But my Brokos stack, I'm definitely gonna think about confounding that.
Sure.
So, and then guess what? I get to draw a card. So it's
right.
it's absolutely a big thing, and of course, that targets one or more creatures. So there's a lot that, you know, with a single target kind of things. But if somebody hexes you,
right,
or you know, tries to steal something, it's not, you know, it's not just destroying it. It's
targeting it. Yeah.
Yeah. If somebody tries to put a treachery on it, that targets. So they don't get to untap their lands, and you still have your big beefy thing.
Yeah. Good find, Sheldon.
Yeah, I love that card. All right, well, we've dipped into the mines and dug up a few hidden gems. Here's hoping that we've inspired you to do a little bit of spelunking on your own. All right, as we mentioned earlier, first week of previews is wrapped. We're going to go into each of our favorites so far in every color, multicolor, and artifacts, which will include any colorless cards if there are any. Now, Scott and I both picked separately, so it was entirely possible that we picked some of the same cards. As it turns out, we didn't. So that seems interesting. Now,
we are not the same person. This is not surprising at all.
Since you won our last Collector Boosters opening matchup, I think it's only fair that you get to go first here.
Well, okay. I don't know if that's a prize or a punishment. Well, we'll see. So we're going to start with white, and the card that I have selected for white is Keeper of the Accord. 3 white casting cost, human soldier, a 3/4. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, if that player controls more creatures than you, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, if that player controls more lands than you may search your library for a basic plains card, put it in the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Holy moly, is this card white. I really like this card. I like, you know, any white card that will let you ramp up some lands or, you know, get some creatures into play when you're behind, I think is good. Mm-hmm. My favorite part about this card is that it is the words each opponent's end step. If you're really behind, you can catch up really quick.
Well, yeah, the first thing I was thinking was that, well, maybe I actually want to go fourth if I'm playing this card.
Maybe. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it does cost 4 to get out, but
sure.
You know, I think that, and you know what? It's a 3/4 body. You know, white can do a bit of sacrificing, so maybe you can, you know, if you're like, oh look, I'm only ahead by, you know, I'm even on creatures. Maybe I'll sack a guy so I can get a token. You know, sack a token to get a token if you've got come into play effects. There's some cool things you could do with it.
Yeah, I like the choice here too. It's a soldier, so it slots into your soldier tribal decks, and it creates soldiers. So if you have something like Knight Captain of Eos, this fits with that. You know, you can sack it to fog for the turn. So keep creating those things. Again, sometimes in white, you're going to get far ahead in the number of creatures that you have on the battlefield. But if you do, then that's okay, because now you have the advantage as opposed to being behind.
Right.
And you're playing white, and you're just going to be behind on lands. I maybe don't play this in a Naya deck.
No.
Because we'll have ramped, but
right, you're probably not going to play it with green, but you know, I can see the white-black decks that I enjoy playing. This is a guy I'm going to take a look at. Yeah,
and and Mardu, and the ones that traditionally have trouble keeping up with the insanity on lands.
Or Boros. Boros.
Or Boros.
What do you have for white?
I have Archon of Coronation. So as we know, Monarch has made a return in Commander Legends. An Archon of Coronation is an Archon. It costs 6 for generic and 2 white for a 5/5 flyer, which puts it in the conversation already.
Mm-hmm.
When Archon of Coronation enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. Good enough, right? Play it. Mm-hmm. You're going to draw a card.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're the Monarch, damage doesn't cause you to lose life.
Holy moly.
Right? There's not much more to say.
There really isn't.
Permofog while you're Monarch. And this is certainly going into a deck with you did this to yourself elements, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to play Mirror Strike. You're going to play, you're going to play Deflecting Palm or whatever. And people are going to want to try to attack you to get the Monarch away from, but guess what? Your life total doesn't change.
Yeah, I'm glad they put the reminder text on the bottom here.
Right.
Because I think people might be confused by that.
Right.
You don't lose the life, but you still take the damage, so you'll still lose the Monarch.
Right. You take damage, then the damage doesn't change your life total.
Yeah.
Which means things that trigger on the damage getting dealt still trigger. Like the Monarch.
Yep. No, this guy is this guy's got a fat body, and it's white card draw, and this is going straight into my Brian Stoutarm deck. This card was made for my Brian Stoutarm deck.
Yeah,
I can't wait to run this guy.
My thing here is, am I gonna just put it into my Queen Marchesa Long May She Reign deck, or am I gonna build a new Monarch deck around a bunch of the cards that have come out or going to come out in this set? Because Monarch is very, very saucy. If you saw Gavin Verhey's Good Morning Magic Wednesday or Thursday of last week, he talked about like it being, as soon as somebody suggested Monarch, that it was like, oh yeah, that's the perfect thing to put as one of the mechanics into this set.
Yeah, I have never not enjoyed a game where the Monarch was a thing. I think it.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about, and we even played a variant a couple of times, right?
Yeah.
Where First Blood gets the Monarch, and it's part of the game, and it has always driven interesting and compelling play of game once it's live.
Yeah, it's just this cute little sub game that you get to play within the game, which is, you know what? I'm not going to worry about trying to win here. I'm just going to worry about not trying to keep the Monarch, which is going to help me win.
I mean, there's certainly going to be times when you don't want to be the Monarch.
Sure.
Right? If someone's in a sort of overwhelming board position compared to yours, you want to give that Monarch. You want to let somebody else have that so that they can pick up the ticking time bomb.
Right.
that's about to come across.
You bet.
All right, two very spicy picks for white. What do you have in blue?
Oh, in blue, what do I have? More Kraken. That's what we have. I'm gonna use. This was an easy one for me. I'm gonna choose Brinelin the Moon Kraken. 6 UU, so an 8 cost legendary Kraken. He's a 6/8. And when he enters the battlefield, or whenever I cast a spell with converted mana cost 6 or greater, I may return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, and it's also a partner. So if you want to combo this up with something else, you can do that. And, more Kraken. What can I say? I love my blue-green sea monsters deck with Erixmathes, and I'm always looking for a way to upgrade it. And this guy, he's going to go straight in. He's awesome. I am not afraid of the big cost on these guys.
Right.
My deck is well set up to get these guys out quick. I can get this guy out on turn 4 if everything comes down right. So
yeah, and you got your Ominous Seas and everything there too.
Yeah. It's just fun. So
yeah, this is like a fixed Tidespout Tyrant.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Tidespout Tyrant is just it's awful. It becomes miserable. And this, it's just okay. When things see giant monsters come in, they get scared and they run away.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is eminently a fine card. I think I'd want to play it in something that I wasn't hard casting it too often, or is coming off of this seems like a good thing to come off of lurking predators.
Sure.
Unfortunately, other fatties coming off of lurking predators don't trigger Brynolin.
That's true.
Because it's a cast trigger.
Because you have to cast, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm a fan of this. I mean...
Great.
Big, stompy monsters, again, is Commander. So, the fact that it has partner lets you branch out into another color or two. So, you can get the things... maybe you play it with a green partner or, even Ikra Shadiki, adding green-black to the blue. And then you start gaining life when you start doing damage with your big monsters.
You bet. No, this
is a fine. This is a fine choice.
What you got for blue?
Oh, the one that we got to preview as part of the RC previews on Monday. Sphinx of the Second Sun. It also costs 8, so you can see already if you didn't already know. You can see the way the RC leans in the games it likes to play.
By the way, I want to add, this card correctly costs 8.
Yeah, right. So it's obviously a Sphinx. Yep. It's a 6/6 flyer. And at the beginning of your post-combat main phase, you get an additional beginning phase. So that means untap, upkeep, and draw. Happens a second time for you. So the turn you play this... assuming it stays around, assuming it resolves and stays around, you get to untap. So it becomes essentially a free spell. And then on future turns, you get, again, all the nonsense that you would do during your upkeep. An extra draw from Phyrexian Arena.
Yep.
For example. Just like, there's a multitude of things. As a matter of fact, I wrote... Last week's article was about building with all of the things that both I as a content creator and us as the RC got to preview on Monday and Tuesday, or preview week. They all happen to be blue, so I'm like, oh, let's just put them in a deck together.
Right.
And I wrote at some length on some of the shenanigans you can do with Sphinx of the Second Sun.
Yep.
We talk about how good Seedborn Muse is in giving you some untaps and letting you do things. And this is another one of those. So I expect that it will be a very popular card at the Battle Cruiser end of the format.
Sure, I'm looking forward to seeing if, and I may look into doing it myself. There are already ways to get multiple upkeep steps.
Paradox Haze.
They're Paradox Haze. Then you can copy that. And there's a few cards out there to let you copy a permanent. With this guy, I'm looking forward to seeing if somebody can make the the upkeep step matters deck and have it really run with maybe an epic card from the Kamigawa block, which triggers on upkeep. And if
we get 2 of them.
Yeah, I remember our friend Rashad a few years ago ran the white one, which lets you search up an enchantment every upkeep. It'd be interesting to see what you could do when you can search up 4 or 5 of them every upkeep.
Right. Right. Well, the first thing he would always go get would be the Paradox Haze.
Right.
So that
to get another one.
2, and then it gets crazy. Yeah, I'm thinking about here with Sphinx of the Second Sun. I'm thinking about play it. Untap. If you have 1 more mana, like if you have 9 instead of 8, you just Rite of Replication kicked. Your Sphinx is the Second Sun
during the upkeep because it's a.
No, it's a sorcery, but
sorcery. Well, you don't get another main phase though.
Well, it's at the beginning of the post-combat main phase.
Oh, the beginning of the post-combat main phase. Okay.
Yeah, so you'll get to cast more sorceries. So, Rite of Replication kicked, more fat creatures, extra turn spells, possibilities. The insane possibilities with Sphinx of the Second Sun are legion.
Yeah,
let's move in.
Makes my head hurt. There's so many words on here that have never gone together on a Magic card before. Keep you parsing it and reparsing it and reparsing it. Yeah, should be fun.
All right, let's move into black. Go for it.
I've chosen Kesket, the Flesh Sculptor. 2 and a black, so 3 cost. Legendary Human Artificer. It's a 1/3. You tap, you sacrifice 3 other artifacts and or creatures. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 2 of them into your hand and the other into your graveyard. Again, lots of words that have never existed together, especially on a black card. The reason I like this one is I have never been a huge fan of Partner. There are a lot of them now, so I'm looking at it and I'm thinking I may have actually found a partnership I want to try. I think I might want to try Kesket and Rebic, which has also been previewed. I might want to run these guys together because I think a black-white artifact based deck might be pretty cool. I mean, most artifact decks are, blue or white or red. It would be interesting to get the black one involved. There may be another black partnership where I could do just mono black artifacts. I think it would be really would be awesome to do. Something I've never done, and we've got a lot of partners here. Something I'd like to try. So
yeah, now it's funny that you picked this card because in that deck I'm talking about, I built with our previews. I partnered Malcolm with Kesket.
Yeah.
And make some artifacts, make some creatures, draw some cards is a thing.
And black has lots of graveyard recursions. So if you're looking at the top 3 and you get 2 gems and you got a big fat creature you're going to put in the graveyard, you're going to resurrect anyway. It just seems like it has a lot of synergy. So
yeah, I'm fine with the spice on Kesket. This is a fine card, and I think you're right. Especially if you haven't built a partner deck before. It's the kind of thing you want to lean into. And, I know your predilection for black-white might suggest maybe moving outside your comfort zone a little bit.
But it's so cozy.
Who am I to tell you how to have fun?
Yeah.
All right, my black card is that controversial card that we talked about earlier, Opposition Agent. And I'll tell you why. Well, if you've been sleeping for the last week and a half, Opposition Agent is a human rogue that costs a black and 2 for a 3/2. It has flash, and you control your opponents while they're searching their libraries. This, in and of itself, would probably be enough, because then you basically make them fail to find all the time.
Right.
While an opponent is searching their library, they exile each card that they find. You may play those cards for as long as they remain exiled and spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast them. So, somebody goes to fetch, you flash in an Opposition Agent, and you get to search for something instead. I think that's the kind of nightmare scenario for a lot of players, but I don't think that that's the way that we're going to see this. Obviously, if you combo Opposition Agent with Marilyn of the Morning Song, then you've locked all your opponents out of the game, and you just win. Also, not a desirable scenario, but I think the line of play we're going to see here is the one that's the one that's started to become necessary for Commander, and that's reining in the tutors, right? If we could play Mindlock Orb Commander, I would. I think that Opposition Agent is reasonable protection for a thing that is overrepresented in the format.
Sure.
Searching your library.
Sure.
It's a 100-card singleton, so variance is a thing, and tutoring reduces the variance. And too much tutoring just means that the singleton nature doesn't matter anymore.
Correct.
So I'm a fan of what Opposition Agent represents to the format, and now you can't just tutor willy-nilly. You have to think about the risk-reward scenario. Right? If you absolutely need to tutor for the card to save yourself and or the board, you're gonna say, okay, if you have Opposition Agent, you got me, but you're still gonna do it. if it's a less dire scenario, you're really going to have to think if an opponent is playing black and has 3 mana open, if your tutor is really that important, because it could turn out to be a huge blowout. Right. And once it's in play, well, it dies to murder, right?
It dies to murder. Yeah, I get it. I can understand people's... I understand people that don't want to have to play against this card, but I'm like, you know what? If you're worried about this card, you may need to reevaluate why you're playing what you're playing in this format. Right. I certainly know that when I started playing Commander, I was very excited, and every deck every deck I had was loaded up with fetch lands and loaded up with tutors. And over the years, I've realized that the variance is part of the fun, and I don't want my decks to be that linear. I want them to go in different directions every time I play them. So it's not to say I don't run tutors. I do. I just don't run every fetch land that I could possibly run. I don't run every tutor that I could possibly run. In black decks, I tend to run Demonic Tutor, and in white decks, I'll run, one that'll allow me to get an enchantment or an artifact or something like that. In green, green, I'll run some green ramp cards, of course, but I'm not going to overload them. So, I think this card kind of allows the format to pull back from something that it's done. I think if the net effect of this card is that people put fewer tutors and fewer ramp cards in their deck, it's a win.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. That's why I picked it as my black card. It's not necessarily just what the card does that I like. It's what the card does for the format.
Right.
Again, there are going to be a couple of just Dark Ritual into Maryland, turn to opposition agent. Haha. I win.
Right.
Those are going to be the outliers. Those are going to be the exceptional cases. I think that, again, every time opposition agent gets played, somebody is getting blown out. And if opposition agent makes every card in your hand dead, then you're right. You probably want to reevaluate how you're playing Commander. Or you're going to need to. Not that you want to. You're going to need to.
You're going to need to, yeah. Because I don't see this card getting banned. I cannot imagine a scenario where we would ban this card.
No.
It just doesn't help you win quicker. It helps other people win slower, which for me is a good thing. So,
well, I mean, if they demo tutor, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna get upset because somebody cast this in response to you fetching up your win condition, I don't have a lot of sympathy for you. So.
Right. But I didn't get to win. You're right.
You didn't get to win. You didn't get to win.
Somebody stopped you.
Yep.
All right, let's move into red.
Oh, red.
Oh, what a... okay, I love the one you've chosen. Go ahead.
So I have chosen Breaches, Brazen Plunderer. 3 and a red, so 4 cost, legendary goblin pirate. It's a 3/3. Has menace. Whenever one or more pirates you control deal damage to your opponents, exile the top card of each of those opponents' libraries. You may play those cards this turn. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast those spells. Oh, and by the way, has partner. And my first thought about this card was, this has a great name.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to play a pirate named Breaches?
Right.
The second thing that I'll note, which we may be getting to a second, I alluded to earlier when I said let's get to pirates, but holy moly, has Pirate Tribal gotten good with this set.
Well, when we saw these previews for this week, I said, well, I'm going to play my Admiral Beckett Brass deck on stream this week because it's getting rebuilt with a bunch of these new awesome pirates.
Right. Because all the new awesome pirates that were in Ixalan many of them have been eclipsed by this time.
Right. Now, this is the obvious thing to pair with Malcolm, keen-eyed guy.
Yep.
For a pirates deck, which is why I didn't pair it. Which is why I went with Kethis instead. But Malcolm and Breaches, it sounds like it's a comedy duo that you have to go to the show for.
It's some weird buddy cop movie that I want to watch. Yeah, what's interesting to me is I'm trying to figure out, is there a way that you can still run red, black, blue as a pirate tribal without running Beckett Brass? Like, are there two partners that work together?
So you need black, blue.
Yeah, is there a black blue partner?
I don't know
pirate?
if there's no, there's definitely not a black blue partner in pirate.
Right. So if you want to run pirate partner tribal, you're going to have to be on two colors most likely, or you're going to have to do some weird pair up.
Yeah.
With a non-pirate. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I love this guy. I'm becoming a huge fan of, exiling the top opponent's libraries and you get to play the cards. I think I like the ones that say you still have to pay for them, but you can spend mana of any type.
Right.
I like this. I like this mechanic, and I think it's perfect for pirates. Obviously.
Yeah, it's very piratey because it's a live in the here and now, right?
Yes.
You exile the card and you can cast it this turn. But if not, well, that treasure has gone away.
You still exiled their card. It's still good.
Yeah.
It got dumped over the side of the boat. You didn't get to put it on yours, but it still works.
Jinkies, they're onto us. Get rid of the treasure.
Yeah, right. Well, speaking of pirates...
Yeah, speaking of pirates, I have also gone down the pirate route with Dargo the Shipwrecker. It costs 6 in a red. It's a legendary giant pirate. Mm-hmm. A giant pirate. And this art has, I think I can fairly say this, the biggest lobster in the history of lobsterdom. Because Dargo is hanging on to a lobster, and he's got a bunch of treasure, and it's a 7/5. And as an additional cost to cast a spell, you can sacrifice any number of artifacts and or creatures. So you can feed them to Dargo, as it were. Then the spell costs 2 less to cast for each permanent sacrifice this way, and 2 less for each other artifact or creature that you sacrifice during this turn. So if you can cast this for 1 red really, really easily. A couple of treasures and a creature, and there's 6 mana right there. Yep. It has trample, and it has partner. So here you go, man. Dargo is just. I'm probably playing this in my Crash deck.
Yes, I imagine you would.
Which likes to sacrifice things.
Sacrifice things, sure.
And I've suspended the Greater Gargadon. So I think I'll sacrifice a couple of things, and then plop, here's this 7/5.
Yeah. Yeah, this guy's bananas. I love him.
Great art, great theme. You see the ship is sinking there in the background.
Yeah. We know exactly what happened here.
We know exactly what happened here.
I think, what would be interesting, Sheldon, is if you made a mono red pirates deck by partnering up Breaches and Dargo. I think it can be done now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I shall investigate.
All right, let's move on to everybody's favorite color, green. And we will note that shortly before we got into the studio, there were some green cards previewed, and yours is one of them. Go for it.
Yes. I believe we both. Well, we didn't completely change, but we're going to talk about 3 cards instead of 2.
Right.
I chose Court of Bounty. So this is an enchantment, costs 2 GG. And it says, when Court of Bounty enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. If you're the monarch, instead, you may put a creature or a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. I like this in that it is rampy. I think if you're not the monarch, it's rampy in a way. It lets you play additional lands without fetching them up. I like this. It's an interesting space to play in, rather than the obvious go search up a land and put it into play. You've got to have one already. And I think if you can hang on to the monarch and start dropping big boys into play,
right,
good for you. So this is interesting. I really like the fact that the Monarch cards here, I like the directions they've gone with them. They're interesting. I really like these enchantments they're making too. So being the enchantment guy on the RC, there's a few of them that I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to play this. Oh yeah, I'm going to play this. They're right in the space I like to play. So this one is where I'm going. I
mean, it's no Bene Supremo, but
of course, well, nothing is. That's why it's Bene Supremo.
Okay, so in the intermezzo here, we're going to talk about the other one that got previewed.
Right.
That it hasn't made me change my mind, but it's called Apex Devastator, and it is aptly named.
Yes.
It costs 8 green. It's a 10/10.
Yep.
For a Chimera Hydra. Really cool art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
very cool.
It only has 4 words of text on it. Those 4 words are Cascade, and all 4 of them are Cascade. So you get to Cascade 4 times. Do you have a deck that this currently would go in?
I do not. Thems that knows me knows that I just don't tend to play a lot of green in decks. Yeah. Of the 5 colors, it's the one that interests me the least. It's not the current deck. The current one deck that I can think of that I have that has green in it is my Irksome Thieves deck, and this thing doesn't fit the theme. So no, not for me.
Not for you.
But I saw that when I woke up this morning and was kind of thumbing through Twitter, and I saw this. I went, "Oh, Sheldon!" I said literally out loud, "Sheldon's going to change his card before the show," because I know that Sheldon loves Cascade. So.
I love Cascade, and I'm certainly putting this into a deck that already has Maelstrom Wanderer in it.
Of course. Yeah.
So that we can just have all the shenanigans right now.
Right.
But the card that I'm picking as my favorite so far is Kodama of the East Tree.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It costs 4 and a green. It's a legendary spirit. It's a 6/6. It has reach. It has partner. And whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, if it wasn't put onto the battlefield with this ability, you may put a permanent card with equal or lesser converted mana cost from your hand onto the battlefield. So, anything that ETBs, Kodama of the East Tree says, bring a friend.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's a land... Now, obviously, if it's a land, you can only put another land
right
out. But if it's a fatty... And it's not the thing that's making my eyes roll right now is the fact that it's not a cast trigger. It's a enters the battle. It's a
battlefield trigger. Sure.
Right. So if we're lurking predators into things, we're still getting the trigger off of Kodama the East Tree.
Sure are.
This is very, very saucy.
Right, and it's funny, what I expected to see is that this thing would be very creature-based, but it's not. It's permanent-based.
Right. It's permanent-based.
And it also doesn't require that the permanent be the same permanent type.
Right, so if I put a Solemn Simulacrum onto the battlefield, then I can put... I'm blanking on the 3-mana artifact. Wow.
That lets you search up a land?
No, wow, I was thinking... Yeah, obviously, if it's just wood elves, then we got a whole thing. You're going to run out of cards. You're going to need to pay attention to your card draw here, because you're going to run out of cards because they're going to get onto the battlefield pretty quickly with Kodama the East Tree.
Yeah, modern green Magic does not have a problem with drawing cards.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, and they did put a rider on here that things have to be equal or less mana cost. So I mean, I think you mentioned wood elves. I think the interesting thing here is Kodama the Last Tree's in play. You cast Solemn Simulacrum. You search up a land and put it into play, and then for the rider on this, you put wood elves into play, and you go get another one. I think it's interesting. And if you just happen to have it, green loves to ramp. If you play play a permanent, and then you happen to have an extra land in your hand, you can just pop that right down into play.
Yeah,
because it's putting a permanent into play, not casting. I think it's you can go really wide with this card. But like you said, you're gonna have to, your hand's gonna get empty quick if you don't have a way to refill it. So.
Yeah. All right, moving into multicolor.
You bet.
I see that you have chosen outside your comfort zone.
Yes. To the surprise of probably nobody, I've chosen the black-white card because this is an amazing black-white card. One of my probably top 5 commanders for black-white ever. I've chosen, I guess it's pronounced Lisa, Shroud of Dusk. 2 white, black, a legendary angel, 5/5. Rather than pay 2 mana for each previous time you've cast the spell from the command zone this game, pay 2 life that many times. Has flying, has lifelink, and also has whenever a player casts a spell, they lose 2 life. I am very interested to play this. I think that any deck that is black-white and is not able to keep up with the life loss on this card is doing it wrong. So, this is a black-white player's dream card. Can't wait to figure out either a deck to build this around or one that I already have to jam it into.
Yeah, I'm just going to jam this into something black-white. It's a 5/5 flyer for 5 that has lifelink.
Right.
Like there's no sort of downside, and then there's the thing again, when a player casts a spell, they lose 2 life. So it's keeping in check again people getting out of hand. Like,
yeah, remember, that says whenever a player, not an opponent. So make sure you understand what you're getting yourself into. It's going to affect yourself as well. So.
Yeah, lifelink will make it fine.
But it should be fine, yeah. And
so, I mean, again, this is a card that makes people rethink about how they're going to play the game. You know, this card is going to do much damage to Brian David Marshall. Right? He's a Simic player.
Right.
He's a Simic player, and he's like, blah, 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 blah. Well, it's like, okay, did you lose your 12 there?
Right. He wants to cast 18 spells a turn. Right. So, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this card. I have chosen Amorth the Lustrous because it's lustrous-y.
Yeah.
It costs 3 and Bant, so green, white, blue. It's a legendary dragon. It's a 6/6 flyer. Whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, look at the top card of your library. If it shares a card type with the permanent, you can reveal the card and put it into your hand. Guess what goes into your Amorth the Lustrous deck? Kodama of the East Tree.
Probably, yes.
Right. I like the Bant is a favorite color combination. I just like what this does. Right. Again, it's entering the battlefield. You look at it. If it shares the type, put it in your hand. So one of the things I really like is that when you play a land later in the mid or late game, if there's another land on top of your library, you get it off and into your hand so that you're drawing more gas.
Yeah.
Right. It helps you sift through your deck. Again, it puts things out. It helps you draw into things. This is a fine commander. It's on a relatively beefy body, so there's certainly an opportunity for you to kind of go ham with doing some commander damage on here with a sword or something. This is a fine card.
Yeah, there were multiple gold cards that I could have predicted you would play. This was certainly one of them.
Yeah, there's
one
also
you would choose for this for this segment. There's a Mardu one too that I thought would be one you would play too.
But, the Mana Burn one.
Sorry?
The Mana Burn one.
Yeah, the Mana Burn one. Obviously, but this is right in Bant's wheelhouse. I am not surprised you chose this one. This thing is a value engine, which I know you really enjoy. Yeah. So, no surprises here. Oh, plus it's a big fat flying dragon, which is a bonus. Right. So, what are you gonna, there's no going wrong.
That everybody loves.
This will be
all right. What's your artifact or colorless?
Here's I didn't know what you were gonna pick, but I suspected what you were gonna pick, and I didn't want to double up. I've chosen Bladegriff Prototype. This is a 5-cost artifact creature. It's a griffin. It's a 3/2 flyer, and it says when Bladegriff Prototype deals combat damage to a player, destroy target non-land permanent of that player's choice that one of your opponents controls. There's a lot of words to parse there, but what it really comes down to is this is a neat little political card that I think, I don't know how much play it'll see. I hope it sees some play. I like what it does. So, you know, I come over and I swing at Sheldon. I do combat damage to him. And then Sheldon gets to look at Toby and Gavin's boards to decide what to blow up. So I think it's got some cool possibilities for the political side of the game.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. And you know, the question: will you be willing to take 3 and blow up X? Right. And there are a lot of times when I'm going to say yes. I'm willing to take the 3 if you're going to blow up. Why?
Remember that when I do this, when I say, Sheldon, will you take 3 to blow up Toby's shenanigan he's got going on?
Right.
We'll all be good, yeah.
We'll all be good.
Yeah, what do you got?
I've chosen the Horizon Stone. It costs 5. If you would lose unspent mana, that mana becomes colorless instead. So this is basically Krufix on an artifact.
Yes.
That's destructible, but still. And mostly I brought it up so I could mention the interaction with Yurlok of the Scorched Thrash.
Right.
Which is bringing mana burn back. A player losing unspent mana causes that player to lose that much life. These cards actually don't interact because, or they do interact in that you don't take the damage. Right? Correct. Because you're not losing unspent mana.
Right.
The unspent mana event is being replaced into something colorless.
Yeah,
and
it's converting to colorless.
I think we all have a lot of mana sinks that we need and want to play, and I think Horizon Stone will then give us a pile that we can use later, because we're not going to lose it as phases end and turns end. So we get to hang on to it. This is good stuff.
Yeah, they're both cute cards. I like them. I really like the art in Horizon Stone, by the way.
That is pretty
cool. The infinity symbol. It's cool.
Yeah.
The infinity symbol tipped on its side. I think it's not unintentional that is tipped on its side. Like both of these cards, like the Horizon Stone, it's not really a play into a play pattern that I like to personally play, but I can see this. I mean, before I had a Rick Smithies, I played Krufix in my big sea monsters deck just so I could build up some mana over turns to play stuff. So but not as much of a problem for me anymore. I think it'll be interesting. I expect to see these two play together a bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
As well as some of the older cards that would dump mana into opponents, would add mana to opponents that don't really see play anymore because of mana burn. Mana burn having been removed from the rules, so it'll be interesting to see if somebody builds, the deck that intends to make people lose by mana burn. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, that'll be a possibility that somebody will certainly build around. We look forward to seeing it. I think we've been sitting in the chair long enough, so it's time for us to wrap the episode. Before we go, I'll remind you can pre-order Commander Legends singles from now until 20 November. That's at starcitygames.com/CMR. If you're watching us on YouTube, please remember to follow, like, subscribe, comment, share, and ring those bells. We know you have a choice when it comes to Commander content, and we would hate for you to miss a glorious episode of the Command Share. Before we run, Scott, where can these folks find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter, and my Twitter handle is just my name, @ScottLarabee.
I'm on Twitter and Facebook by my name at Sheldon Menery. You can also find me regularly in many of the channels on the RC's Discord server. You check the front page of mtgcommander.net for the invitation link to go there. Always free, all the time. Plenty of interaction with RC members. Please tune into my other show, Commander Community, with co-host Anthony Alongi, every Monday here on StarCityGames.com and on YouTube. On Thursdays, 8 Eastern in the U.S., you can catch me, Scott, Toby, Gavin, and who else on the Commander RC Twitch channel. You really never know what sort of reprobates are going to turn up for a game 2.
No.
That's twitch.tv/CommanderRC. Finally, On Sundays, you can find me right here on Star City Games, writing about the best format in the history of Magic. We'll see you next time on the Command Chair, and as always, I'm Sheldon Menery.